Karabo Mokwen, Anine Boysen, Riva Steenkamp. These are names of a few women who have appeared on the news as having been killed by their men and intimate partners. Gender-based violence is a rife subject in our country. There's a culture among certain men of taking sex violently from women without permission. #JustMen has been showing at the Baxter Theatre, where Heinrich Reisenhofer, who's the producer of this play, tried to bring across the message that men need to stop, men need to stand up and protect women and girls. My name is Roxy maRosa, and a hearty warm welcome to BOTHO with Roxy maRosa. Let us please welcome Heinrich Reisenhofer. Oh, thank you so much. Just men. Why?
It was basically an answer to, we've heard all the names of the victims, of females who have been, at the hands of gender-based violence.
Yes.
We really haven't heard the story of the men's side of the stories. And
yes.
It's like the narrative is incomplete with men really showing up and going, how are we participating in this? How are we going to make a difference? What do we need to own up to? What stand are we going to take?
I went and saw the show.
Yes.
Of course. And the males that were talking, the experiences that they were expressing, it was quite interesting that it actually was coming from childhood.
Yes.
Is that what you wanted to bring across?
Gender-based violence is largely rooted in hurts from the past, in sexuality, and
yes.
and most of them come from our childhood experiences. So if we're going to address it, it's like we need to address the past, we need to address our own past, and I think that's why it naturally became about addressing it from that point of view.
And what is the change that you're looking for?
Participation. What I want to see is men being part of the gender movement as opposed to the gender movement happening to them and then they're going the world. No, it really was about how do we participate together, and it's
yes.
the same thing in relationships. How do we as men and women participate together in dealing with what it is that we need to do to bring the best of ourselves to our relationships? If anything that came out of that production was that men would say, I'm standing up, I'm getting involved, I need to do the healing on myself that I need to do, I need to step in and contribute, I need to make my voice heard, I need to support, so that women, are, in terms of gender movement, are not alone standing for what they're standing for. We all want this, essentially.
Yes.
We want to be at peace, we want to be happy, we want to be fulfilled.
Out of what you were trying to achieve from the theatre production, do you think that you actually achieved it?
Yes, in the sense that it was beginning a conversation. And at the end of the show, there's such a very clear message that the last story shares, which is, number one, we need to acknowledge that we as men are disconnected from ourselves.
Yes.
For whatever reasons, from our past, from societal pressures. There's been a lot of changes that happen. That we as men need to deal with our own pain. Acknowledge that it's not just our situation, that we actually need to deal with our own pain if we really want to be better people, and that we need to learn to love ourselves, that we need to learn to access that if we want to be that for other people.
One of the conversations that was there was men get together, and that is an opportunity for them to just be themselves and
yes.
just say whatever there is to say, even stuff that are disrespectful towards women. Are you saying men stop?
We did a post-talk after the production. We engaged the men, and the women went to another space, and we just spoke to the men, and we were really about what do we need to look at. And men were very interesting. They were saying, even though we as men associate and we tell jokes and so on, we're actually competing with each other.
Yes.
We're fighting with each other, even in those groups. And what the intention of the play was to firstly show that being powerful was about being vulnerable. It takes courage to be vulnerable,
yes.
to show your hand, to show that you don't actually have it all handled. And that actually is powerful. That's a very different kind of power and courage. And it was really about giving that example that firstly men can cry, they can talk about what they're dealing with, they can own up to stuff that they've done, they don't have to hide it.
Yeah.
It was really setting that example for men.
How do you have men maintain strength
Yes.
yet expressing emotion.
One response that we got from the play was we went, wow, these men are phenomenal. They were just, it was empowering to watch it, empowering to watch men be vulnerable on a public space, on a public stage.
Yes.
I think it really challenged that notion that men are powerful when they can hold their emotions. I think we're getting tired of it. I think we're getting tired of men who bottle their emotions up and basically lie about what they're feeling.
Would you say society also needs to be educated about this?
Absolutely.
Or society needs to be open and have that conversation about accepting men as humans and people who can show emotion?
I think we need to challenge, especially those institutions that require men to be hard, in corporate, in sports. You know, that drive of like, you can't, you've got to be this man. I think we've got to challenge it, and we've got to challenge it quite... and we've really got to be in the face of it, because a lot of those men who are out there and they're being strong, they're just hiding their pain. And that's no good. Doesn't serve us. You know, we need to challenge people. We need to call them out on their pain.
What message do you have for moms that are raising boy children?
I come from a single mother parent.
Yes.
And my healing has been about reconnecting with my father. How it is important it is to bring men into the conversation of healing. And I get that, you know, in terms of women's empowerment, you know, women have been independent. My mother and my father in one. But there were fundamental things that she couldn't teach me. And it's really, really important. And this is where we as men need to participate and come into the conversation and go, men, you need to be involved in your kids' lives. Even if, you know, it's a divorce or you're not, you've got to be there. You've got to be present. Mothers are doing such an amazing job, but we've got to find ways of bringing men into the conversation. My mother was my everything, or is my everything. But how I identify myself as a man is still modeled on my father. So if I'm disappointed in my father, there's an aspect of me that will always be disappointed in myself.
Yes.
And so it's really important to restore our relationship with ourselves, which is why we say you've got to deal with your own pain, which is your picture of yourself and how you see yourself. That always will be an important process, which is why I think what we need to popularize is that men also just need to do that work on themselves, that inner work, and make that popular thing to do. Create safe spaces where men can speak about what they're dealing with, so that we can come to our relationships and be the whole men that we want to really be.
Yes.
You know?
When we come back, we're talking more about what #JustMen is all about. Please don't go away. We're joined by Eloise Nair, who is a professional coach and an awakener, to tell us more about her role in the production of #JustMen. Eloise, welcome.
Thank you, Roxy.
Can you please tell us what was your role?
My role in this production was mainly to support my husband, Heinrich Reisenhofer.
Yes.
And how I done that was when we had the debriefing sections, he debriefed with the men and I then took the debriefing with the women.
Yes.
And that was my main role in the production.
You're a life coach and you titled yourself
As an awakener.
an awakener. Please explain.
So a lot of my journey through life has been in a spiritual kind of way where I really just looked at addressing my own wounds as a woman, as a mother and as a divorcee. And I'm married, of course. And when I met Heinrich, a lot of our conversations was around healing ourselves. And the one thing I always said is, I've got to learn to love myself.
Yes.
And he often asked me, Eloise, how do you do that? So it was really a long process of me teaching myself how to love myself and then conveying that message to him as well. So that was a lot of our attention was based on healing our narratives, especially the way we relate to ourselves, and that caused a lot of suffering in our lives, especially in my own, and it also showed up in my relationships. So that's the work that we do, is really like look at.
Usually after productions or after a show, people don't get together and discuss what was going on or expressing their feelings and their thoughts. How did you come up with that? What made you see the need for it?
Women came to that event, and after the debriefing, they would actually they would be in tears, literally in tears.
Yes.
And the reason for the tears were a lot of the times trauma was provoked.
Yes.
And then they realized certain emotions or events that has happened. A lot of women that was there realized that they were raped.
Yeah.
And women that came realized that they needed to make a decision
Yes.
whether to stay or leave.
Yeah.
Women came to the event, they needed to make a decision. What are they going to do with the men in their lives? And some of the women wanted to stay with the men.
Yeah.
And so what is the next action? How do we assist our men? How do we support them in their healing?
Yes.
So it was a diverse group of women. It was a challenging environment for me.
Yeah.
And somehow I left there every night thinking, oh my God, there's so much work to be done.
Yes.
There's so much healing that needs to happen. And I've been asking how can this production, how can we take it further? How can we, so I've been nagging my husband, love, what are we doing next? Where are we going to with
Yes.
that? Is it going to travel?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of excitement around the healing process. And there's a lot of work that has to also be done to spread the word.
Heinrich is saying, men stand up and stop. And the message that was coming across from the play was, we the one who are perpetuating this. And you saying, respect men. Contrast.
Yes. I had a tendency of running men down. I had a tendency of making them feel small so I could feel better about myself and not deal with the stuff that I was dealing with as a woman.
Yes.
And that was my reason for saying respect men. Because when I'm still in that process of learning how to respect my husband and the men in my life, is really to honor them. But honor them in the sense, not put them on a pedestal, but honor them in the way we relate to them, the way I relate to them, the way I communicate with them.
Yeah.
You know? So that for me is a big one, because it's easy for me to run him down, then I don't get to grow or expand as a woman and heal my wounds to have a relationship that I want. And I want love, I want intimacy,
Yes.
I want closeness, and I also want him to treat me like I'm his queen.
Yes.
And so it comes from me.
Yeah.
If I can't present that, then he's never going to show up like that. And if I'm going to keep on running him down, I'm going to be treated like the damn woman in the kitchen.
Yes.
And I don't want that. It's our responsibility as women and men. When we heal our lives, we can show up in our lives where men and women treat each other with that kind of respect and love and intimacy, you know?
It's essentially the same message. It's just it was in different rooms, but we were saying the same things. And it was men step up, respect your women. And it was, and the message was women step up, respect your men.
Yes.
Especially, encourage where men are getting somewhere. We need encouragement. And we both need encouragement.
Yes.
It really is about that, not running each other down.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, society has a thing, your man needs to know how to treat you. Hell no, I don't get that. If you grew up in a home where your mom was treating your dad a little bit not the way that he was giving what you wanted, then you're going to perpetuate the same thing.
Yes.
I'm saying we need to know what we want as individuals, because we're also uniquely different.
Yes.
And so we all need different things to make us feel happy and good about ourselves. And that we can relate to our partners.
Generally, women come into relationships with the expectation of, this man has to take care of me. So I bring my problems into the relationships. You heal me. Fix me.
Fix me. If you're getting into any relationship where you're thinking that your partner is going to fix you, solve your problems, or put the money in your back pocket, I'm telling you to stop. Stop, because you're going to just cause yourself a lot of heartache. I'm saying to all the women out there, take a stand, and take a stand by going for help.
Yeah.
Get someone to speak to, whether it's a counselor, whether it's a very good friend of yours. Start somewhere, but start the process of healing. And through that process of healing, we as women will identify what we need to fulfill ourselves as women, what kind of nurturing we need, what kind of respect we want around us, support we want around us, and how we want to take our lives forward.
So what I'm hearing is, not only do the men need healing, we all need healing.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's the message.
And I think it's about taking responsibility for our healing and not bringing our healing into our relationships. And that's why it's been so important to have a space where I go as with men,
Yes.
and we go and deal with our healing so that we can bring the best of ourselves to our. And Eloise does the same. She's got a women's group. We're both involved in spaces where we can go and do our healing work and then bring the best of ourselves to our relationships. And I think that's an important message. Don't do it in your relationship, because
Yeah.
then you're really putting your partner as the person who's supposed to sort you out and
Yes.
heal you.
Yes.
And we do that to each other, and it doesn't work.
This is an incredibly interesting conversation. When we come back, we meet a young woman whose experience is being related in #JustMen. Sexual violence is any unwanted sexual act by any person in any setting, including but not limited to work or home. With us, we have Lebo Montewa, who's going to tell us about her experience and her involvement in #JustMen. Welcome, Lebo.
Thank you, Roxy.
Why did you get involved with #JustMen?
It's been a journey of many, many years for me. Sitting with a story, but not realizing that I'm sitting with a story.
Yes.
And when Heinrich approached me to talk about it, it just made perfect sense.
Most women walk around and they don't talk about their experiences when it comes to being violated. What was your reason? We've been friends for a very long time and I never knew.
It wasn't up until I was in my, I think grade 11 or 10 in high school,
Yes.
when I actually remembered the incident. It was triggered by a very interesting question.
Yes.
So in high school, we're talking about being a virgin and how proud you are of being a virgin. And this man asked a very interesting question. He said, but how can you be sure you're a virgin? That was a crazy question. How do you not know you're a virgin?
Yes.
The question bothered me.
Yeah.
Bothered me for many reasons, because I asked, is it possible that one would not know?
Yes.
And I remember as I interrogated the question and I sat with it, and I remembered it happened actually, oh my gosh, it's true. Something happened. I'm a child, I'm 6, 7 years old, I'm bathing. And, I was one of those kids who was always like a big dreamer.
Yes.
I was going to be someone who was a global citizen.
Yes.
I always used to picture myself. I would take empty chairs and I would put the chairs there and I would talk to them and I have these speeches and amazing. I used to read big books and share amazing stories that my teachers felt like, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
And this particular day, I'm bathing and I'm just in my own element, and my cousin walks in, finds me bathing, and he says, come, you're dirty. And he starts to penetrate me with his finger, and obviously it's painful, and I tell him to stop, and I say, no, it's okay now, I'm clean, and he continues to do it, and then wipes me and then throws me on the bed and then penetrates me, and it was painful. And I remember, stop now, stop, it's okay, I'm clean now, I'm clean.
Yeah.
Because I thought what he was doing was part of cleaning me.
Yes.
Because I thought, I'm so dirty inside.
Yes.
I must be, that's the only way to possibly clean me. Because as a child, that's the only language I could understand to justify what he was doing.
Yes.
I didn't know. But I didn't realize the impact of that, because I can vividly remember after that incident, the girl that used to put empty chairs and dream, she disappeared.
Wow.
Because I was always worried, what are they going to say? What if they find out you're dirty?
Yes.
And who are you? Who are you to share with the world, to be powerful, to be amazing, to be extraordinary?
What will make the world listen to you?
I didn't realize that I carried that narrative with me until JustMen.
Yeah.
Interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely. A lot of the times people are like, I have been raped and that's the act.
Yes.
And people don't relate to it as, well, there's a story that I have created and it's impacting me in a particular way.
Yeah. It was only when I started interrogating in that conversation about how I made up that I'm not that.
Wow.
How I saw how it impacted my entire life.
Yes.
How I stopped myself from being extraordinary and amazing. And I continued as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Everything I did in my life was based on a conversation of a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
You are dirty, you cannot be that.
Mm.
And then you start to attract people that almost like that vibrate at that level.
Yes.
Because you're not good enough. So you will start to attract people with the same context and conversation that will treat you that way.
Yes.
That you're not good enough. It was until then that I realized how much healing was required. And telling the story wasn't just telling my story.
Yeah.
Was telling the story, a global story, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Men need to reconnect with the core of who they are.
Yes.
The sacredness of who they are.
Yes.
Because we love men. I've got amazing men. I've got beautiful sons in my life.
Yes.
And I don't ever want this platform or this production to be seen as us against them kind of strategy. It's not a social campaign of us against them at all.
Yes.
It's a campaign of love and compassion and connection and going back to the roots of the core.
Yeah.
One thing that got us here, it all boils down to love. It's about love fundamentally.
I know the audience would like to ask some questions.
How do we take what we're learning here to our communities, to our townships, just to teach our men that it's okay to get counseling, it's okay to speak to someone? Because I feel like a majority of our men, they actually feel like if you go for counseling or you speak to someone that you are weak as a man, you must be proud, you must be strong.
I'm glad you came to be part of this conversation. I think the purpose of Just Men was exactly that, to start a conversation. It doesn't have to end here with Heinrich and the producers. You can start your own, just hashtag Just Men or hashtag Just Women or hashtag whatever. I'm hoping this platform will give you the tools to be able to engage at the level where you get to be comfortable. Like, let's have this conversation. It does not have to be a campaign. It's like for your own personal self. What are you taking for yourself out of this story, and be able to engage? And don't be fearful to say that I actually learned this from this platform and I want to see. And it's always critical to check with them how your speaking lands with them, because it's easy to say something in point and then when people get offended, have a look like, how did you say it such that your communication was not gotten? You get it? Because it's easy to say like, why are you taking offense? It's like, oh, okay, so how did I say it? That it landed like I'm offending you, because my purpose is really not to offend. My purpose is to create a dialogue that flows, that serves the purpose of healing and engaging and moving forward.
It really is the place for men to step up and start being vulnerable and start interacting with those spaces. But I think what we as men would really love is encouragement. You know, women, at the end of the day, men really do look to women for, you know, are you acknowledge me? Am I being a man? And I think if more women acknowledge sensitive men who are willing to be invulnerable and not look for the strong guy, you know, and really acknowledge those men, I think it would start changing the tide of what men would start gravitating towards. I think we all participate in terms of the image and the culture that we as men aspire to. And we ask this question, why do men rape? Why do we as men rape?
Yes.
Owning it as something that's part of the tapestry, the culture of what makes us as men. And it's this thing about permission. We've got this. There's something that underwrites in our thinking that we've got permission to take something without consent, and that's almost like we look like if you're the guy that can get past that woman's no, then you're the guy, and that's the stuff that we need to remove that permission that we give ourselves to override someone's consent. Someone's consent, you know, a woman's consent is very, very important. We need to cherish that and not see it as something that we need to find a way to overturn by buying her drinks to get her loose.
Yeah.
You know, all these ways that men try and get in and get something that really it's overriding consent, and that's where the problem starts.
Yeah.
And that's something as men that we're all responsible for. It shows up in our jokes, it shows up in the way that we objectify women. That's the stuff we've got to stop.
I'd like to thank my guests, Lebo, Eloise and Heinrich, for their participation in this conversation. Many perpetrators of gender-based violence believe that they will never be caught out. #JustMen is calling on men and women to take a united stand to stop violence against women and children. Until next time, men, stand up.